discovering you, rewiring the brain, rebuilding confidence, and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zeimet.
And welcome to the Beverly Zeimet Show, where being the best you can be just got easier. Today our guest is Nicole Borghi from Las Vegas. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Beverly. Good morning.
It's great to have you here. Robert Carlisle's with us. He's our behind-the-scenes tech guy, making sure everything keeps running smooth, and he's doing a great job at it. So, Nicole, tell us a little bit about why you decided you wanted to come on the show.
Why do I want to come on the show? Well, first of all, I'm a super fan of you, Beverly. I've been following you for a while. We've worked together, and you have helped me heal mentally, emotionally, on a soulful level, and health-wise, definitely, which has been an awesome journey. And I started myself seeing that change, and I wanted to share that change with other people and work on that soulful connection and bring them back to that healthy point. And I think right now is a great time to do it.
It is when you look at the things that are going on in the world today, right? Oh my gosh. Before we start getting all into that, I'm going to read a little bio here to help explain some of the things that Nicole has done over the last few years and has come really a long way. Nicole calls herself a soulful counselor, and we're going to talk a lot about that. She's a crystal Reiki master. She's energy intuitive, a psychic surgeon. She works in entity removal, works in herbology and aromatherapy. She also teaches the golden angelic ray. We might have to ask her about that. She's furthered her studies also through shamanic journeying, past life regressions, shadow work or inner child, meditations, breath work, chakra clearings, and nutrition and exercise. Her main goal is to help her clients become the sole creator of their life. Wow, Nicole, with all this under your belt, where do you start, right? I mean, you can't just pile all that stuff all at once onto people, can you?
You don't. What it is just reading that bio, and thank you for sharing that. It's just giving people a taste of what my modalities are. And with these modalities, I can find the proper way to help somebody heal and help them get on their healing journey, just assisting them. And people, it's such an empowerment each time I take one of these classes or I go on one of these journeys, and I go back and even into a shamanic journey or in a past life regression, and be able, just on my level, for me, it's so helpful in identifying where I am, maybe the shadow or that inner child. It's just different ways of kind of working with energy. They're all forms of energy. They're forms of energy connected to spirit, our guides, our angels, and that golden angelic ray healing is really just connecting to your archangels. You know, who do you need to call on? They're there for you. Understand that your guides, your family is there for you at all times, ready to empower you and embrace you with their love and just help you heal. And with these modalities, I can help you find where on your journey you need to move and progress forward. What's going to help you? Where are you at? Sometimes it's something that you're eating that helps you move forward and progress. Sometimes it's exercise. It should always be eating and exercise, I should say. That's a daily regime. But also, you know, what is your dream state? Where were you? Maybe something that you can't reach, a goal. Maybe that's an inner child, something inside that you need to work on. And so all these modalities work, and we don't have to go through each and every one of them for a person. It's just identifying where that person is at and what their needs are, so we can find that and work with that certain tool in the tool chest, kind of like when you're repairing a car. Sometimes you need a wrench, sometimes you need a screwdriver, but you can't always do you can't substitute a wrench for a screwdriver at times, right? It's not going to function
Exactly.
for that. So you need to have those tools in your tool chest to work with that person and get them productive so they can be on their way and function at top speed at all times.
That was a great analogy. Sometimes we, look at, what a person does, and they've got this whole line of stuff, and it's like, oh my God, and, so to be able to segment that out and having the ability to choose different modalities, because not everyone gets results from one modality or another, and maybe they might feel more comfortable with something different. And so being able to have a lot of different things under your belt like that is actually healthier for the client that's coming in, because you can go one direction or another, listening to what they're looking for, what kind of answers they're looking for, what kind of direction they're going, what are they ready for. It's like, oh, this is like way above their head. If I bring this out of my bag, they're going to probably exit, right? And
Right.
so you start where they are in their belief system and in their healing, and getting started where they are. And that's really great that you can actually see that and start working that way, and you're very intuitive. And that was one of the things that I recognized in you from the very first day that I met you. And it's quite interesting. We'll talk a little bit about networking, right? And we've talked
Right.
about this on the show off and on, and how do you interact with people. Well, Nicole and I and a couple other gals, it was quite interesting. We all went to this networking, and none of us were going to go. None of us. It was
Yep.
like it was just a miserable night in Las Vegas, right? But it was spirit evidently wanted us to get together, because we all showed up and we all just like magnified together, and we're still friends to this day. And but none of us were going to go there. So sometimes when you follow that instinct, you just don't know where it's going to take you or what the outcome is, right?
Yeah, some of that battle is really identifying. Do you not want to go because it's truly, what are you seeing as an energy worker? What are you seeing ahead? Or is it just is that spirit pushing you out the door to say, okay, come on, it's time to move. It's time to change. It's time to get out there and meet the people you need to do. And it's like a little dog pushing his nose at you, sometimes getting you out the door and saying, come on, let's go check it out, right?
Right, right. So there's a lot of times when it's, you just kind of want to stay home, crawl under the covers, and say goodnight to the world, right? But there's that gnawing thing inside of you that just pushes you out, and it's good. It's a good thing. Gosh, I can't imagine my life without Nicole being in it anymore. She's just such a beautiful spirit, and I'll tell you, she was so hungry, right? And she's like ready to go to high school. I said, well, wait a minute, you haven't even got through kindergarten yet. Hold on here, there's pieces in between, But she's just turned into such a beautiful healer in her own right, and it's really amazing to watch you blossom, as the months go by, and it warms my heart. I see you on Facebook Lives, or I see you doing other things, and it's like, yes, there she is, she's shining, and that's a beautiful thing to see. So, talk to me a little bit about your cosmic things.
The cosmic things, the cosmic connection of the universe, or are we talking the kind of collective? And that's a lot which would have been coming up, or the direction I believe that you're going in is really that cosmic connection on the universe. And there's something knocking on our door right now and saying, it's time to go within so we don't go without, and really start to connect to our guides. And our guides are here. The dimension, the portals are open. And that energy has just shifted over these last few years. And they're here, especially you see it in a lot of the star children, the star seed children, those children, the crystalline children that are coming here. They're helping us open up to that new energy, and really being able to find our connection. And so if we don't find our connection, the universe is going to find it for us and kind of throw it synchronistically in our lap. And it's not always,
Yes.
we might not perceive it at first that it's a good thing, but I'm kind of when I get a clue, my spirit guides, and I tend to be a little stubborn, but my spirit guides have to come in like a Mack truck sometimes, or they used to have to come in that way and be like, okay, it's time to change.
Guilty.
It's time to change. And they're like, it's time to open up. You have a gift. You have this gift that you need to work with the world. And the things that I've seen, I didn't know that what I was seeing had anything to do with what other people were seeing. I thought it was just a bunch of series of nightmares.
Right.
And my gift isn't, my intuitive or psychic gift isn't always necessarily, I do work with my angels, but I see certain chaoses, or I see certain things in the shadow, or in that inner child at a soul level where people are afraid to look. A lot of times we want to watch from afar what other people are going through. Oh, that poor person, what they have to deal with. Well, we don't look at it for ourselves. And so my ability is to go ahead and look inside other people and see, okay, here's where the clouds are. Here's what's going on inside of you. Here's what we need to heal and what we need to work on. And so I just can zone in on that. Also, that has to do with that cosmic connection is seeing what's going on now, or seeing in times of need, working with that chaos and being able to kind of triage the world and say, okay, here's where the planet is hurt, and here's where the planet is sad, and here's where we've stolen our own planet. We've tried to take our planet outside of that cosmic connection and outside of that oneness. And some of us have done it, but we kind of teetered a little bit and went all the way to the divine feminine and forgot about the divine masculine, and that we need to unite it as one, and we need to come together. And it's not just one side or the other, it's all of us. And for these last few years, we have, with the tensions going on the streets or riots or anything that's been going on, it's really been, okay, it's time to find and open your heart, awaken your heart, and find the connection to your brethren and say, okay, we did this in the past. Let's find our forgiveness and let's work going forward. But instead, we've kind of separated ourselves even more over the years and just become so angry. And in this need, and some of that energy also is, a lot of that is, what psychotropic drugs are we on? And I know that it's in my family, so I can speak on it as being in relationship to people that I've cared for, family members, that those psychotropic drugs, if you need them, you need to have family understand what they're doing to you before you go out. If you're not on that chemical balance properly, and that chemical balance inside is what has happened kind of to the earth. We need to understand that our bodies, what we're doing to our bodies, is ultimately what we're doing to our world and the universe. Is we're taking it for granted. We're masking it. We're masking the pain. We need to feel the pain. We're human. We need to feel love. We need to feel anger. We need to feel hate, as well as love and kindness and hugging and comfort. We need to have those feelings as a whole, just to kind of synchronistically just keep moving and keep being as a continuum, as one. And we have forgotten that. And because we have been so kind of drugged out, whether it's overdoing it, we're so got to do it like 100 times more, instead of a sip of wine, you're having 3 bottles of wine,
Exactly. Exactly.
Right?
Right.
And then you shouldn't go outside, you shouldn't text like crazy, turn off your phone, right? Things like that. But really, what are you looking at in the scope of things? And we always want to turn a blind eye to our neighbor. I don't want to see that accident. I don't want to help my neighbor. I don't want to look at, maybe there's a problem here. I don't want to, you don't have to call the cops. How about reaching out to your neighbor and say, hey, are you okay? Well, if they slam the door and say, I don't want help, that's okay. But did you reach out? And it's always at the end of some craziness and some chaos, and they say, well, I saw the signs, but you didn't do anything. And that's what I'm here for, and that's what I like to help people. Are you seeing the signs? What are you missing inside of you? What's going on here? What's inside of here? What's the craziness here? And a lot of times, the other thing too is, being able to connect with the guides, also being able to, understand entities and things like that. When we break ourselves down, we open up to all of that havoc coming in, because we're on such a low we're in such a low vibe. Our health is bad, our immune system is bad, or we don't exercise, we're not getting any sun, we're not talking to people, reaching out to people, no matter if it's virtual or not. And what a fantastic way to do this. Reach out to somebody. But when you're in that low vibe, things are just going to come in and take over. Somebody's going to take advantage of you because you're not taking advantage of your own life. And why miss out on that opportunity and let somebody else do it for you?
That's a great point you make there. Where a lot of times we want to just turn responsibility for ourselves over to someone else, so we have someone else to blame if it doesn't work out right. It's like, well, the doctor said, and so, well, the doctor was wrong. Well, so it's his fault. No, it's not. It's ours. We are responsible for ourselves when it comes to the end. And you're talking about helping your neighbor and looking out for other people. We have gotten so far removed from that interaction with people, and people need people on this planet. The human element needs the human element, regardless of how it gets. Whether it's like you mentioned, the VR, puts you in that supposedly environment, but it makes it real. It has the same feeling, and that's a key word, feeling, right? Because that's what makes things happen. And so, again, I think this time in history that we are having the opportunity to experience in this world, this whole global isolation, it's look what it's doing for the planet. Look what it's doing for the planet in just cleaning up the air, right? So the pollutions and everything. It's giving us time with family. What are we doing with that? What are we doing with that family? Are we still, just spending time by ourselves on these things? Or are we deciding that maybe we need to start communicating and finding out, what do our kids do all day long when they're at school? What does mom and dad do all day long when they're at work, right? What can we begin to do with the hours that we have now? And I personally think that we're going to see more stay-at-home parenting going on and less daycare things taken over, because parents are going to learn how to interact with their children being at home. And I think more schools are going to do that because they'll find that there's less chaos in the schools. The curriculum is getting taken care of. The education is getting deeper, where our kids that are getting out into the world today will have an education and a rounded base, something solid to go out in the world with, and again learn how it is to communicate. This isn't communicating. Texting isn't communicating. It's not. Dead words, right?
It's not. I spent a lot of time in isolation when I was young, and I spent a lot of time missing school. And not being able to develop that relationship with other people. And I find where I have such a hard time as an adult in a certain little bit of connection that people needed. I didn't feel I needed it, but I felt other people kind of needed it. In a sense, when you're talking and you're engaging, there is a way to be in community, and I avoided that. And unfortunately, I didn't know that I'm here also to serve other people, not just myself, and I didn't open up to that as well. And being in the hospital all the time, my only connection was maybe to my mother, my father, my family, and to the nurses in the hospital. And having virtual reality then, that would have been awesome when I was young, to see I could make my own story, or I could do things and just let my mind go. Because, when you're a child, there's so much of an imagination that you have, and you're bedridden. And I couldn't move. I wasn't able to move, so I wasn't mobile, so I was stuck in the bed. And, that would have been, if that's a different relationship that you develop with only a certain choice of people. And I didn't realize that there was a community, or there should be a community, and being able to be involved with the people I was with, because every time I got close to somebody, something traumatic happened, and I would end up in the hospital, or somebody else would end up in the hospital, and then we'd all get close again. And that's the only way and the only time we had closeness. And so I took it for granted, or I didn't really understand it. And now is my chance to be able to, when I am able to go in public, to talk to the people I'm in line with. If I'm in line for 20 minutes at the store, like yesterday, I talk to the people next to me. made a connection instead of being in fear. We're all here for the same thing. And for once, I went to 2 stores yesterday. For once, it was actually, in sense, calming because we were all there for the same purpose. We weren't all there to get something more than the other had. You know, hey, what are you buying? What are you getting? Oh, what are you getting today? Hey, I got to shop for other people, and I do. So, delivering food for other people, since you're there in the store, you might as well get a big basket and just get enough for other people so you can distribute that. And so they don't have to go out. And that's another way to look at it. Are you using that? Are you using that time? Are you developing the skills? The other thing I love seeing is I love seeing people cleaning. I love seeing people have a respect for their environment because
Right.
your environment has a lot to do with your mental health. Are you clean? Are you organized? I know kind of right now, I get it, people, because I'm going nuts because I have a house full of boxes and I've got to move amongst this crisis. And it's just something that spirit's like, you still got to do this. You've got to make this move because if you give on everything else, and that's a sabotaging power.
Right, and we all have that little piece of sabotage in there. Sometimes it's easier to not do than it is to do, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned something, the cleanliness, right? And it's interesting. We all should be doing that regardless. All of a sudden now it's coming out as if nobody knew how to wash their hands, right? Nobody knew how to clean their bodies and stuff. It's like, wow.
Thank you. And thank you. But the other thing you look at too is if you're looking at alternative healing tools too, when you do spell work, which is in a sense manifesting and becoming abundant, but if you get into that or any certain rituals and other, even shamanistic rituals, other rituals, you have to go through a certain cleansing. You have to be clean. Even if you're into the certain ET contact, they want to make you go through a cleansing sometimes to get you to that point. And what is that cleansing? It can always be different. Sometimes it's a soulful cleansing. Sometimes it's just an internal body function cleansing. And sometimes it's bathing. There's rituals where you take in a bath with oils or flowers. You're cleaning your floor. How are you cleaning? But you have to be prepared. And that's part of that manifestation.
Yes.
To find that end of the abundance, whether it's at a soul level or a thing, a tchotchke you need. You have to go through a cleaning and a cleansing, and it's part of the ritual, and we are not even doing our daily rituals.
Right, and that's a good point that you make. That anything that you're doing cleansings with, a massage therapist, they're cleansing the body of toxins because it's the toxins that cause those little aches and pains and bumps and bruises and everything. So when you're doing a detoxing, or if you're doing a fasting, that's a form of cleansing. Anytime you do an emotional healing work or spiritual healing work, those are cleansings. Cleaning your energy field is like cleaning your physical body. You have a mental, emotional, and spiritual body. So they all work together. And that word cleansing always comes up, right? So no matter what it is that you're doing, it's having that cleanliness, because that's the pureness of what your soul is and the pureness of the world around you. So when you look at the contamination outside the world and what we've been doing to this planet, oh my gosh, it needs cleaning up. The planet will do itself. I mean, it'll have a tsunami, and wipe things out. It'll have fires to wipe things out, to have a new slate come up. That's nature's way of doing it. And sometimes
Yes.
we get caught up in nature's destruction, but it's only nature's cleansing, right? So look at our own selves. What are we getting caught up within our own being, the own essence of our soul? Where do we need that cleansing? Where do we need to, get that balance as well, right?
Exactly. If you're looking at it from a naturopath or an herbalist perspective, you got to clean your colon out. you've got to be cleansed, right? To move forward and get rid of all that old food. And otherwise your body's deteriorating inside and you get sepsis or IBS, you get irritable bowel syndrome. How many things have to do with the colon or probiotics and enzymes for the stomach? If your food's not breaking down, it's sitting there. It's hugely sitting there. And it has such an effect on the mind. If you have calcium buildup on your third eye, you're not seeing, you're not able to see out, you're not able to see the world around you, you're not able to see it at a cosmic level. You cannot, there's so much you don't see. If you're tired, if you're not clean and you're not clear, your focus isn't clear, how are you seeing your family's reactions to you? Or are they just leaving you alone to go sleep again because nobody wants to deal with you because you're angry or you're tired and you're cranky and maybe you're hangry, eat something, right? But you need that cleansing from that. And it's such a big thing right now, is so huge, is 2020 is the year. It's our vision, right? It's here in our eyes, but our third eye too is part of that spectrum. And if we're not tuned in on our binoculars, we're seeing two different things. One thing out of one eye, one thing out of another. When you're a kid, you get your binoculars and you got it tuned totally different, and you're going out of your mind, but you have to get that all clear. You have to be able to focus. It's for perfect focus. And in order to have perfect focus, what are you focusing on? And what are you doing to get that perfect focus?
And focus, that's a great word, Nicole. When you look at your life and your dreams, where it is that you want to be, where are you? Your past is going to haunt you and it's going to follow you wherever you go unless you cleanse it and let it go, right? So it goes back to that disconnecting, and that's that cleansing processing. So what are you going to do that? Because if you don't want your tomorrow to look like your yesterday, what do you have to do? Clean up today, right? There's that word, clean up the now, right? And that's where you change it. So the depth that you're moving through, again, it goes into the brain and into the body itself. And the stressors that we have and the chemical releases that happen when the neurons start firing. And so where are your thoughts? Because your thoughts trigger all of this stuff that creates chaos within the physical body, which then resonates out into the rest of the bodies, and it begins to take you down. So if you want to reverse the things that are running amok in your life, in your physical being, in your mental state, in your emotional state, even in your spiritual state, you need to get to the root cause of what that is. And Nicole has really started to develop different techniques, and that's why she has expanded her ability to take in all different kinds of modalities, because she starts to combine from different ones to give you that ability to get the cleansing that you need to get the start wherever it is that you're ready to start, right? There's a lot of healers out there. There's a lot of people in alternative. There's a lot of people in medical. There's a place and time for everything, and it's bringing those pieces together. And you might relate with some person and not so much with another. You might relate better with one modality versus another. You can combine the medical and the alternatives together. What's going to work for you. And the only way you're going to find that out is to go internally to see what's going on in here. And some of you that have known me, I'm going to say this again, and you've heard this. Go out there, lie to the world. Doesn't matter. Lie to the world. But don't lie to yourself. So when you stop that lie with yourself is when you start to really begin to grow and find out the identity and the truth of who you are and why you are and what needs to happen to change it. And that doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. All you have to do is recognize you're ready to make the change, and then you start taking action, right?
Absolutely. And with me, my journey has been through the doctors. My journey has been, with family members to the psychiatrist, or through depression, or through, steps in the shadow, what's deep in ourselves that we haven't brought out to clear and cleanse, and removing that. And that's what a consultation does, really, is counseling. That's that part of the conscious connection, or the conscious counseling. It, for me, is saying, look, Here's where you're at. I'm not going to step over what your doctor recommended. Never do that. It's assisting. It's helping on that journey, because now that the doctors maybe helped you heal or find you on a path inside, it's time to realize how much of your brain, like you said, how much of your mental state needs to clear along with it. Because if you do one, you can have surgery all the day long, but if you don't clear it consistently, then if you don't find out where your mental state is kind of sometimes sabotaging you because your habits, you haven't been able to change your habits. And that's where you need somebody else to come in and hold your hand and see, here's how you change your habits. Here's how you change your mental state. Here's your shadow inside, or that little inner child saying, hey, you know what? We need to be held, or we need to find out, what have you turned out to be? You're a wonderful, beautiful person, and you're not in that kind of bad, shadowy time of life anymore. And it doesn't have to affect you anymore in the daily life. It doesn't have to be part of your life. And you don't have to all the time sit on the couch with somebody and say, and talk for an hour about how bad it is and relive it. I think the most important thing for me with this type of work is I don't have to relive the pain talking to someone. And I don't want you to relive the pain. I want you to understand what it was. I want you to clear it, connect with it, clear it, and let it know, forgive it, move it forward. And even with entity removal, if I go into a house or with a person, you're forgiving that substance and letting it go. You have to let go and detach from it. And you have to forgive yourself for holding on to it. So whether it's your circumstances, your environment, your mental state, or your physical state, it's finding that connection all the way around and saying, hey, here's how I can help you move forward on your path. Get some meditation, get a little exercise here. And we're going to do some exercises for that mental state on how you can kind of wake up and get that aha moment. Because it's not a one and done with me. I can bring you in for Reiki work, or we can do it online, or go into your house. But one time isn't the clearing that you need. It needs to be a consistent thing. You don't go to the masseuse one and expect your body to be on its best,
Right.
all the time, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And if you're spending all that money on vitamins, are you on the right ones? Are you getting the right nutrition? Is it a good balance, or can you just get rid of some of that and realize that I need to focus here? It's where I need to find the connection.
And again, it goes back over into that mind over matter stuff. You made a point here. You say you can have surgery all day long, surgery after surgery after surgery, right? But if you don't change that mental processing, those thoughts are what create everything to shut down, because they trip different chemicals in the brain that impact the body. So if you're running under a lot of stress from shame, depressions, guilt, angers, all of that, it impacts different organs of the body. And when it gets enough, it begins to break down and break down and break down. And what are you going to do that? So, like anger stores in the liver.
Right.
How much liver problems are out there, right? If you clean up the anger that you're feeling and that you're responding and you're living to, because it doesn't matter who you're angry at, that person isn't feeling the impact of that anger. You are.
Oh,
You're the
100%.
creator. Yeah. So if you want to get a healthier liver, get rid of that anger, right?
Oh, it's huge, because when I started to let go of my anger, it was like divorcing myself.
Yeah.
It was like there was that other person that I was attached to. And it felt like a weight was coming off. It felt like, I cried, I laughed. You go through this mania, kind of like in a relationship breakup. I spent so many years with this anger. I lived this anger. I wore this anger. It was a shield from other things.
Oh, right.
I needed it to get through things. And so people need to understand it's just not something you wake up to. It's not something you wake up to. You can smile all day, and I love it. That's fine. But you know what? Sometimes behind that smile is something else. And is that genuine? It's also focusing on with the spiritual bypassing that's going on too. And that's a lot of the downloads that I've been getting these last few months, is that spiritual bypassing of saying, hey, everything's wonderful. And sometimes it is. But
Sometimes
is
it
it
is.
truly? You can't always be up here and you can't always be down here. You got to have a medium. We're here on in this world in that third and fifth dimension going into that seventh, but we're here to experience this planet. And if you're up here all the time and you're avoiding everything, anything in front of you, relationship wise or anything with your children or anything at work, if you're not working on it and saying, what's that shadow? What's that reflecting in me? What am I seeing? Why is that person not working with me? Or why are they angry with me? Or why do I feel like I want to run away from them? It may be something you need to acknowledge and engage, and see that's okay to experience that and come down just for a little bit and see what's in front of you. And you need to see that.
And sometimes too, when anger gets triggered in you, or different feelings get triggered, when you're watching someone else, and it's like you said, you just want to stay away from that person. There's just something about them that you don't like. We are that reflection of one another. Rather than running and holding that person responsible for everything, turn around and take a look at the self, and it's like, wow, are there pieces of that in me that I need to like clean up? And in most cases, yes, right? And this cleanup thing isn't something that's just going to happen a few times. It's continuous. You have to remember, you've been here on the planet how many years? In birth years, you have a date. It's been collectively joining and following you all that time. So if you think you're going to just dump it all like poof in a split second, you better think again. It doesn't happen. Does it get easier? Yes, it does, because the awareness is there and you don't keep piling onto it, right? So the more you start cleaning away, and it doesn't have to take. So let's just say you're on the planet for 30 years. That doesn't mean it's going to take another 30 to get rid of it. It doesn't, So figure like 1 month. 1 month for every year, right?
Right.
And if you really do your due diligence and speed that process up, you can even get through it faster. But it's continuous, because we live in this world of negativity. The impact is always around us. There's always going to be something, right? And so when you reach a certain level, you're going to recognize when those issues come up, and you're going to release them instead of letting them build again. And that's when it gets to be a lot of fun, because you start recognizing you have the experience, you have the emotion. You're not going to get away from that here on this planet. Just know that it was, but be in the moment. Experience that anger in the moment, and then when it's over, let it go. Don't hang on to it. That's the key, right? Don't hoard all that stuff.
No, because you're like, it's like your subconscious is just hoarding, just junk. I need this, and I need that, and I need this, and you don't need any of it. It's also looking at, what are your triggers? So what triggers you? It's not just trigger you at that moment, but what happened? What were the steps that happened? What evolved before that you could have maybe stopped or taken some control of, or just kind of thwarted and moved away and been like, hey, I'm going to defend myself here, like in martial arts, and been like, oh, whoa, you're getting away from that. What happened before that? What was the steps that you should have seen coming to now, and being like, oh, okay, now I'm going to get triggered. But you just decided to not make a choice. You decided to shut your eyes and be blind to it, instead of having that 20/20 vision, being like, okay, this is going to happen, so this is going to happen. And not in a sad kind of Murphy's Law, that if it can happen, it will happen kind of.
Exactly.
Right? It's also the plot. Like in every movie, if you start looking at your life like a series on TV, I got a little comedy, I got a little drama, I got a little happy and some laughing, and there's some romance in there. But what's happening in each series in those plot, there's the same kind of story that's always the same. What on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when you watch that, if you watched that years ago, it was a teenage girl who slayed vampires. But she was always in a certain building with certain people. There was one or two of the same people that always was there. The music was the same. So you gotta look at that like your life. If you're putting that drama forward, What are all the things that you have in front of you to get you to that point where you got triggered? Because it just didn't snap like that. The flame didn't just turn on.
Exactly.
Something boiled over. And take a look at that. And that's what sometimes when you're working with somebody that's doing a spiritual counseling or reading your energy intuitively, I look at all the lines and the signs. Okay, where are you at today? What got you here today? What was your surrounding? What was the atmosphere? Who did you connect to? Um, let me walk you, let's walk through it together so I can say, okay, so if you had turned left at the first corner instead of gone down 12 blocks, or even the second corner, what could you have prevented from happening? And how could you have stopped yourself from sabotaging? Because now you're on an empty tank of gas. So your body's empty, and now your car doesn't want to drive. So now you got to stop, and now you're stuck, and you never got to the event or whatever you needed to get to. Because you allowed all this stuff to pile up, and you didn't take care of it.
It's a great analogy. It really is. Because we do take a lot of things for granted, and sometimes we get stubborn, right? And it's, no, I'm not going to listen to that, like that gut feeling, right? We're just going to keep on plowing through. Has to be done this way. It has to be done this way. Ding, 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 ding. Things don't always operate that way. And it's learning how to move in that flow, but to recognize, it was a really great point, is to recognize what is leading up to these triggers. Who is in there? Is the same person, is the same elements there that are triggering things? Well, what's the moral of the story? Don't go to that building. Don't go around those people, right? It's like, move away from that. Can you detach from those people that you call friends, right? They're acquaintances.
Absolutely.
What constitutes a friend, right? If it's getting you full of anger and it's always something that's uncomfortable, can you really call that friend?
Why are you forcing yourself into that situation? It's like Monday morning, quarterbacking the game, how the game was played at the NFL, because you're watching from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need to start doing it to yourself. What could you have stopped?
Exactly. To recognize the move before it happens so you can avoid it. And that's being aware. And we've talked a lot about the show, with people, that it's being aware. And that's kind of one of the main things that I like to, get out there with people when I start working with clients too, is become aware of your surroundings. Become aware of every activity going on. Because no action can be taken without a reaction from something else. So an action and a reaction, the reaction becomes the action, and that action becomes the reaction. It's back and forth. It's all action and reaction.
So it's not panic.
No, exactly, it's not. So when you can recognize that and stop yourself, you have automatic responses. We talked about that subconscious, Nicole, where it's an automatic pilot. Your subconscious, that's just there. That's that stored cell memory that you're going to respond, and people will push those buttons because they know they're going to get you to respond the way they want you to respond. When
Absolutely.
You can recognize that, when that button gets pushed, you can say, okay, subconscious, we ain't going there this time. We're going to throw them for a loop, right? And you just do something completely opposite of what your normal reaction is, and I promise you're going to stop them in their tracks because they're not going to know what to do.
Huge. And you surprise yourself. But there's also recognizing like the three brains when you're in a situation. What's your head telling you? What's your heart telling you? And what is your stomach telling you? People say, oh, I get that gut reaction. Well, what is that gut reaction? Is that bad cheeseburger you ate? Or you shouldn't be in the situation at the party anymore, right?
Right.
Or is it your heart? Well, I don't want to be with this person. I feel kind of dark, or I feel sad. I feel that they don't respect me as a friend. What is your head telling you? Nicole, really, you're here again for the 50th time on a Friday night. You're having a bad time. You're not having fun with these people. You don't want to be here, but it's such a robotic thing. It's so the subconscious to get there. What is your head telling you? You got to connect the three. They've got to be in unison. And if you don't have that connection, you've got to figure out how to change it on a DNA level, how to change it on your cellular level and reprogram those cells. They die off as quickly they also reprogram and are new. We don't lose all of them. Otherwise, we
Right.
wouldn't be functioning if we weren't reprogramming.
Yeah, we'd
And
get smaller
so,
and smaller and smaller, wouldn't we? I can't afford
absolutely.
that. I'm small enough already, you know?
No, you can't. You disappear again.
That's-
But you've got to like, it's rebooting the computer. If your
yes.
computer's not rebooting, you need an upgrade. Sometimes you need a new computer, and sometimes you just need a new component, or to just ditch all those old
Different
files.
software, right?
Yeah, different software. What are you doing if you're getting that cycle like on the AOL or the old, what was it, broadband, and you get the circle and you get the circle and your brain's like, okay, I can't function. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why I'm here. My head's foggy. My heart is just not into it. My shoulders are heavy and my gut's just like, oh, you
Yeah.
know, if you're feeling that and that's dragging you down, you've got to think, okay, there's no connection. You've got to start realigning that again and being able to program yourself. And that sometimes that's just taking a second and putting your hand to your heart and saying, okay, I need to let the light in. I need to wake up and activate my heart so I can activate my third eye and be like, okay, now I can fly like Rudolph. The nose is bright and it's showing you the way, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and it's the why. Why am I continuously going into this out of habit, right? So why am I subjecting myself to this continuously? You know, and it goes back to that old thing, comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
familiarity,
Mm-hmm.
predictability,
Huge.
and they expect me to be there.
Yep.
Right? And if I'm not, they're going to do what? They're going to judge me. Or they're going to
Huge.
reject me. Right?
Huge.
So you see how that circle keeps on coming around and coming around and coming around. Well, there's billions of people on the planet. You don't need to subject yourself to that. Wouldn't it be much more fun to have a new circle of people where you can subject yourself to laying on the beach, having a beach party, or something different than that?
Huge.
Right?
It's your five closest friends, no matter what you're doing, whether it's on a business level or it's on a fun level or a family level. Who are the people, your five closest friends? They're emulating you. They are part of you. They're showing you your truth.
Right.
Hashtag truth. They're right in front of you. They're saying, this is you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And if you're sinking down low to be with them, then you don't need to be part of that. Are you leveling up and becoming a new program? Are you reprogramming yourself, leveling up and saying, oh, I can do this. I can have that house. I can have that vacation. I can do this job. I can go out there. I can talk to people. And that's huge when you're leveling up.
Right.
Now you can ascend from a different realm. And it's a continuous motion. You have to have that velocity. You have to tune that car. You have to keep functioning. And that's huge to see that. And we miss that there's so many components to getting to that point. That person wasn't a success overnight.
No, they weren't. And you know, we look at the times that we live in. You know, there's so much fear out there. It's like, well, God, you got to be careful who's over here at the grocery store. You got to be careful who's over here at the mall. You got to be careful if you go to your car by yourself. You got to be careful. You know, it's like, whoa, we're just thrown and inundated. You know, just inundated with all of that fear, right? That we don't want to talk to a stranger, so we have to stay with those miserable people we already know that we want to change. And it's like, so here's this vicious circle going on and on and on. You know, and how do you meet people? You know, we have the internet here, which is really wide open, and there are more wonderful, great, honest, integrity-filled people out there than there are those that aren't, right?
Huge.
So move down that fear. I'm telling you, since I started this show now, gosh, what, Robert, I think it's been almost a month now, right? And I have met some unbelievable people, and it's just like this bond. It's like you start talking and it's just like boom, you're in this magnetic realm. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about my life and what I've been able to do, you know, just traveling, just going from here to there, always in a different place. I meet new people all the time, and I have created a circle of influencers, you know, all over that, you know, you talk about having friends and having best friends or good friends. I have to say the people that I met all over, they're in that high category. They're not just acquaintances. They're beyond that. and coming back and doing a show again like this, and I miss doing the show, so this was like, being in heaven again, and to be able to have people come onto the show and share their experiences, because it is all about becoming that best you, right? How do you become that best you? By clearing away, here's that word again, right? Clearing away those things that you don't want to be a part of you anymore. You're not broken, you're not dirty, you're not tainted. It's just that these are things that you attach. Everything is magnetic. So we want to detach them, unmagnetize those things that are causing an imbalance, and fill it with those magnetic things that create that balance, and start pushing us up into where our belief system is, where we want to go. And again, it starts with recognizing and being aware of what your surroundings are. Know what the situation is. You have 2 eyes. You have 2 ears. You have 2 hands. You have 2 nostrils. So you see, you feel, you hear, you smell, right? Talking is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put all these other elements together before you speak, life will change. Life will change. And, so looking at the world today, and being in this confinement, globally, the impact that it's having, it gives us an opportunity, if you're by yourself, is to really start looking what's going on in here. Who is the real you? Right? And I think, Nicole, you probably heard me give this analogy. It's who are you when you're at work? Who are you around family? Who are you around this group of friends? Who are you when you're on vacation? Are you the same you? Or are you the different you? Because if you're a different you in all those elements, you're not being true to yourself. So let's just say one person from each one of these yous have a party. They all get together and they invite you over. And you walk in and you see them. Oh my God, what are you going to do? It's like, you guys aren't supposed to know each other. And you're all here in the same room. Which you am I going to be?
And that's another thing, is developing that with a personality. Which you do you want to be? And I missed that when I was 14. I missed that when I was 16. Developing the character of my own self, what I liked, with the ability at the time to just, throw it to the wind, because you didn't have to worry when you were younger who you were and how you developed. And seeing, working with certain mental disabilities, finding out that people had a hard time developing who they were, and they had to wear different hats. And so you feel that, and as women too, in these last few years, we've been told we have to wear a different mom hat, or a girlfriend hat, or a sexy girl hat, or whatever, your work hat, your soccer mom hat. And you had to wear different hats. And there's you don't have to throw it all up at people, because they might not be able to handle it. But you can figure out what parts of you are really the truth, and what parts of you work. It's like sharing your truth with a spouse or something. You don't have to be nasty when you say your feelings. There's a way to communicate it in love, so that they understand that, where you're feeling, what your your love language is, and how you're feeling. That's the part that you don't have to hide. Is what in that business, or in the gym, what part of you is the truth to that, and seeing that. Because I always felt like, I had to wear my hair differently, or I had to wear a different dress or different clothing. And I had to be a different character, and that was hard developing my personality for my business. Is I didn't want to be, I wanted to see, you kind of emulate people, and imitation is a certain form of flattery, but I don't want to take your soul on. I don't want to single white female you and take your whole persona and your boyfriend away from you. I just want to share a part of me that's the truth. And I didn't know what part of me was there. And when people are, oh, you're not showing your truth, you're hiding in the shadow. Well, I don't know what my truth is, so why don't you help me find it? And that's sometimes when you come out spiritually, that can be a problem. And that's why it's great to have somebody be there to hold your hand and be part of that transition.
Exactly.
Because they can be a confidant. You can be in confidence with them, and nobody else has to know about it. You know what you're telling them. Here's how I feel that I don't belong here, or here's how I feel my other personality, my alter ego is here, or my twin is over here. That shadow takes over here. Which part of those personalities can you work and kind of mesh into who you are, and fragment yourself. It's like taking a piece of glass and breaking it apart and then putting it back together and making this beautiful glass sculpture. How do you do that? You need to fragment, and that's part of the clearing and cleansing, is letting it go, and piecing it back together properly.
Yeah, you probably hear, from your clients as well, as like, I don't know what I want, right? Exactly. If you hear that, I don't really know what I want. I know I don't want things the way they are, but I don't know what I want. So sometimes it's easier to say, what is it that I don't want? How do I get rid of the don't wants? And the more don't wants you get rid of, you begin to see clearly the wants.
Exactly.
Right? So it has to start somewhere. And you mentioned the word personality. You look at personality traits. We act and do and speak and respond from those personality traits. And where do they come from? From your past, from your environment, what you grew up in, your belief system, the things that were going on in your life, then the database of information you had when that personality was created, because that's the environment that you knew. And again, that's part of that going back and recognizing that, wow, I get it. That really was my truth back there. That's the way it was back there, but that's not the way I want my was to be now, right? And
yes.
So when you meet that truth back there, you can delete that and then put in the truth that you have here today, right? So it's that recognizing and acknowledging that it's from back there. I need to let it go and pull it out from the root. It's not about cutting the tips off. It's about actually getting to the root cause and getting that out of there so that you can reprogram it in the capacity that you need, and not just put Band-Aids over it, correct?
Exactly. You need to really clean the wound out sometimes. If you just put the Band-Aid on it, you're covering it. You're just covering it, and sometimes it festers and it gets worse. So you get an infection. It needs to oxidize. But also with that oxidation, it needs to be cleaned and cleansed properly. It needs to be cleaned ritualistically throughout the day. And you need to check on it. Mm-hmm. And you need to go back. And sometimes you have to keep the Band-Aid on so you can move forward and progress to a certain point, and then go ahead and reanalyze a little bit later. And you don't have to take the Band-Aid off and just let it set to the world and show, oh my gosh, I've got this wound. You got to see this wound, poor me, and that whole thing, play that up,
Right.
But it's like, you need to tend to it. It doesn't have to put you in a victim state all the time. It doesn't have to do that. There's a time to be the victim, and there's time to be a survivor. Are you doing that? Are you creating your world, And once that wound heals, you want to be able to look at it and be like, okay, I got this wound. Here's how I got it. And I'm always great with wounds because it's like, oh, I got a story. Let me tell you how this happened, right?
Yeah, everybody's got
like
that
to share
story,
that,
don't they?
right? And so turn it to the thing, where you're sharing how you got that wound, and you don't have to force it on people, your story, but you just want to kind of share, here's what I did, and here's how I healed it, and here's where I'm at now moving forward.
And sometimes those wounds can be very painful, and other times not so much. But when you can recognize the pain, where the pain comes from, and eliminate the cause of the pain, it goes away much faster. And that's the key element, is to find the root of the pain. If it's an old wound from, years and years and years of childhood, do you really need to unveil what that pain was and who created it from the first point, that caused all that stuff to pile on. No, the modalities that are out there today, you don't need to do that, because it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Oh my God, you can waste a lifetime trying to find that one little needle. Is it worth it? No. Just know that it's there and just get rid of the whole pile. Right?
Let it go. And sometimes you can find out how you got that wound by eliminating other little wounds or other wounds that come up. So don't just focus on that, because there's other things you need to clear too.
Yeah, and then sometimes it's those little things around. And you get rid of all those little things, all of a sudden the big thing's gone, and you're like, oh, where'd it go? Right?
And then you feel great, you feel uplifted, and then you can be in your positivity and ready for any ascension,
right.
moving up, leveling up, and you don't have to even think about it anymore.
Right. So Nicole, I think we're going to start winding down here. It has been such a pleasure having you here, and let the people know where they can find you. I'm going to put your stats up here on the board, and let them know how they can, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, my websites are kind of under construction right now, so it'll take a few weeks, but you can always email me. I'm at illuminatingvegas at gmail.com, or they can reach me at my phone number, and you've got all the bio information out there. My number is 702-608-6639, or just message me. My link's here. Reach out to Messenger if you have a question. Hey, what's up? You rocked on the show. Whatever, just reach out. There'll be more stuff out there, because I've got time now.
Yeah, don't we all? Don't we all? This is the time to take advantage of all that extra time, that was spent getting ready to go to work, getting to work, and then being at work, and then getting home and trying to chill out again. So we've really been given, I feel, a blessing of time. And how are you going to use that time, right? Huge. So comment below. Let us know if you liked, what we said here today. What would you like to hear more of? Reach out. Let us know. That's the only way we're going to know, right? Because we can't read your mind, because we don't even know who you are out there, right?
Reach out. Say hello. If you have a question, I'm always free to talk, I'm always here. Just reach out.
Yeah. The reaching out now has gotten so much easier, and now that we are confined, it even gets easier. And let us know. Just let us know. Comment below. If you're interested in learning more about a virtual reality world, hey, put that in the comment too, and we'll show you how that you can do that, especially staying home. And
yes.
if you're running a business, right, is to learn how to do that virtually, because right now my son works in the phone industry. He does a lot with voice over IP. I talked to him yesterday, and he goes, Mom, everything is going crazy, because so many people are at home now and they're working from home, so they're having to readjust to get everything to work, from a different location, and their phones are just ringing off the wall. And they're working with some of the big companies like Panasonic. They do a lot with them. And Panasonic has reached out to them and said, okay, we know what this crisis is. We are opening up our warehouse to you. It doesn't cost you a dime to stock anything. Whatever your clients want, put it out there. We're going to give everything to you for nothing. And for the client, get it all set up and going. In 3 months from now, if they decide they want to continue with it, great. If they don't, pick up the the stuff and whatever, and and then what gets sold is what they pay for. So it's opened up a whole different world in different businesses, right? Huge. Some are going to suffer and some are going to excel, but that again is part of this whole balancing in what we need. And it's going to be a cleansing of so many different things that you can't even count them. Right?
Yeah.
So let's make those cleansings that you're doing a personal journey within. Get a hold of Nicole if you want her assistance. She's available. She got lots of time now, right? She just told you she got lots of time, right? And with the technology, she's in Vegas. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're on. Just reach out to her, comment below, private message her. She's waiting. and ring her phone off the wall, right?
Yeah, thank you, Beverly.
You're welcome. So it's time to do what? It's time to go out there and be that best you that you can be. Why? Because the three of us here are going to go out and be the best we that we can be. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you on tomorrow's show.